Welcome back to another episode of Couch Talk. We are joined with some special guests, Mario, of course, Todd, and Everton. Today is a special episode. We're talking about the housing situation in Cayman. Reason being is because it's an ongoing topic around our island, as you guys already know. But I think it's a more vocal topic now, especially since elections have gone past and a lot of youth have been vocalizing their opinions on the current housing situation and how it affects them and stuff like that. So let's dive right in. Who wants to go first? Anybody?
Well,
Especially
what I would say about the housing situation, obviously in Cayman, it's been somewhat of a touch and go topic, only because we look at the price points and when you look in certain areas in Cayman in terms of where you live from a district and from a neighborhood standpoint, that plays a heavy role in what you pay. But in recent times, even in the neighborhoods where you expected to get something reasonable, seem to be a little bit out of reach, because now a middle class, income sort of house would have been between 350 to 550. Now we've seen where you can't even get a one-bedroom apartment in one of these local areas for less than $500,000.
Yeah.
So you're starting to ask yourself the question, well, why is the price getting to that point in the areas where we normally would see people that are not at the middle class income level, that is a little bit below and can still attain a house between 250, 310. But now that's not really the case, because you're either in a housing scheme where the government has sanctioned and subsidized certain investors to do certain things, like Frank Hall, for instance. We know that was subsidized and supported by government, and that's why the price points were kind of plateaued at 275, 310. Now we see a situation where on the Linford Pearson bypass, we see condominiums being built, and if you're not a 500 grand, you can't get the smallest one in that complex.
Yeah.
Which is a stone's throw away from other developments where typically you could get things that are affordable for the average person. And I think that that is certainly an alarming thing, because when you're talking about an average school leaver who didn't have the either financial capability or the academics to go to get tertiary education, so that person is going to be in a category of just about average. And we can't stereotype or categorize people, but the reality is that we have all different types of sections. So yes, now everybody got a college degree that will allow them to get a better job, a better paying job, to allow them to be in the middle to upper class. So if we're only catering to a certain class of people, then obviously we must be saying something in terms of what sort of population growth we're looking for and what sort of caliber people we're catering to.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to add to that point is that one of the biggest issues is that, how can an average Caymanian who got out of school that didn't get a tertiary education or degree work a regular 9 to 5 and be able to qualify for a $500,000 or $600,000 mortgage for a one-bedroom apartment?
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you and I both know you never qualify for that. Unless you're rolling up in there with 90% deposit.
Which nobody is doing.
And even if you are one of the few that get your tertiary education, they still won't even. They say you're not qualified. The situation, I know a manager of mine. When she went to go get a mortgage, they asked, "Are you making $100,000 a year?"
Wow.
And that's not for her and her husband. That's singular.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that type, if you're not making that type of money, you can't qualify.
That's crazy.
Or unless you have 200 grand lying around,
Yeah.
you can just go.
Cash secure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to do a cash secure loan?
Yeah.
Who wants to tie up their liquid? Even if you had savings, the last thing you want to do is tie it up into a bank mortgage, and then that limits you from being able to reinvest or refinance or do other things that you might be able to invest in.
Sure, but not many people have 200 grand lying
No,
around.
that's a small.
Yeah,
that's a small percentage of people.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the average person.
Yeah.
That's like what?
Above.
Yeah, that's like a 0.12% of the people.
And it's nuts, right? Because like when you look at this island and you go, when you talk about, let's say, middle class, you're talking about middle class Caymanian or middle class, just middle class across the board? Because this is a crazy statistic, but there's 218 registered billionaires on this island. That's 10% of the world's population of billionaires that have registered. They're not necessarily living here, but they have registered themselves here. That means that the middle class all of a sudden gets brought way up. So you're talking now, middle class is looking at people that are making 150, 200 grand a year. But then at the same time, if you're going across the board, 1%ers of the world, if you earn more than $30,000 a year, you're part of the 1% of the wealthiest in the world.
But if you have no debt.
100%, 100%. But that's taking into account like really large populations of people that are impoverished and everything else like that. When you're looking at that, all that we're trying to say is like, man, finish school and I love the government's idea of saying first-time Caymanian buyers don't have to pay stamp duty. I think every time a Caymanian buys, I don't think you should have to pay stamp duty.
Well, what I will say, and I want to be very clear, because obviously it's important, because obviously have people out there who are not aware about it. When you say that there are over 200 registered billionaires, what do you mean by registered? Because they're certainly not Caymanians.
No.
So what do you mean by registered? You mean they have registered businesses here? Or companies that are registered or managed here?
From what I'm saying,
because I think it's more than that.
When I say registered, I would say that those are the people that actually have, I would say, a residence here of some sort, a house or a business or a something. I think you're absolutely correct. I think registered, maybe not billionaires, but definitely millionaires.
Well, here's the thing, right? And that's why you have to be very careful when you say registered billionaires versus millionaires versus what their status is, because if you're going to pull a percentage of people out to compare to that, it has to be apples to apples. So if we say that our middle class standard is based on our 200 billionaires, I'm speaking hypothetically.
Sure, yeah.
Right? We have to be absolutely careful and certain that we're not basing it on a fictitious number. Because the thing is, and what I would say, and your point is absolutely salient and it's absolutely spot on, but what's happening here is that we have more registered offices here than actual physical people. Right, people who occupy. And I think that was one of the misconceptions when people label Cayman as a tax-free haven as opposed to a tax-free jurisdiction. Yeah, that's a significant difference in terms of reputation. Yeah. Because when you watch the blockbuster movies up in Hollywood, we're going to fly down to the Cayman Islands, we're going to dump off suitcases of money, and they'll just bank it and we'll call them in a week. And that's because we were perceived by Hollywood and mainstream America that we're a tax-free haven. We're not a tax-free haven. We are a tax-free jurisdiction. Yeah. Like many other places. Yeah. And even in the U.S. have tax-free states. The problem is that, and as to your point, when you talk about first-time Caymanian ownership, it should be waived. So here's where we have a problem with that all the time. Is that the Cayman Islands is a service-based society. Every single dollar that we generate by GDP comes from a service. Sure. Okay, we don't import, we don't export, we don't do any of those things. Right. Okay, we have no natural resources. Everything we provide to generate $2.7 billion annually for our GDP comes from services, work permit fees, and all these different things. Yeah. So, if we decide now that we're going to take 45-50% of the population, which is us, and say, well, you don't ever have to pay stamp duties on property. That is a large gap in that revenue stream that is coming out. Yeah. Now, me and AJ had a couple of conversations via WhatsApp, and I was just explaining that our problem is that things are being overpriced because of the volume of development, and I'll touch on that in a second, on why the prices are so high. But my biggest problem and my biggest concern is sustainability, because I can tell you from experience, I had a mortgage for 17 years. And when we qualified for that mortgage, the salary base that we applied within that application was far less than what we make now, thank God. But if I had been in a situation where I was stuck in that 9 to 5 in that environment, like most average Caymanians are, because I can tell you, everybody on this couch and everybody watching, know somebody that been working in a job for 30 years, 20 years, 15 years,
Yeah.
and their salary may have increased on a 6 or 7% increment yearly.
If that.
Yeah.
If that,
Yeah.
if that, and then that all depends on performance and the company's performance and
Yeah.
all these other things. There's a lot of varying factors on whether they make anything more. So when you're looking at the banks that working on float interest rates, if you don't have a fixed interest rate because your deposit wasn't that big, you can't demand a fixed interest rate. Dude, you are subjected to inflation. You're subjected to high cost of living. You're subjected to all the things that you can't control. But the one thing that you are certain of is that your salary hasn't moved to accommodate of any of these things.
Yeah.
And then that's where we find the fundamental breakdown where, okay, you may have qualified for a loan 17 years ago with this salary base.
Yeah.
And now that it's 17 years later, where not much has changed in your salary, but everything in the world has changed in the banks and the interest. Now you can't attain that loan any longer, and then bam, you find yourself in a jam.
Well, and so my wife and I decided we were going to go and apply for a mortgage and try and buy something. This was last year or whatever it was, and this is when COVID was happening.
Right.
You know what every single bank said to us?
Right.
We're in the service industry. We can't accommodate you.
Wow.
We will not give you a mortgage. And I went, okay, but you can see my bank balances. They've gone up during this period, not down.
Right. And you still employed.
And you still, I've still got a job. I own my own business. Like, I've done all of these things. And you still won't give me a mortgage. And I'm willing to put down 20%.
Wow.
And you still won't give me a mortgage on something that's $250,000.
Wow, that's crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy. That's crazy.
then it's 20% down plus the 7.5% stamp duty,
Stamp duty, yeah.
plus. You're looking at 60 grand
Yeah.
to put down,
Wow.
and the bank goes,
No.
Nah, we're not helping you.
no, sorry.
That's
There's a 25-year mortgage. That means that my mortgage, if I'd put the money down and they'd given it to me, it would have been like $600 or $700 a month.
That's nuts.
No.
But here I'm paying $2,500 a month in rent, and you won't give me a mortgage.
Oh my
That's
God.
why, and the
I
hardest.
don't understand.
The hardest thing, and I was even having this conversation yesterday. We were talking, or we were explaining that everybody is telling young Caymanians to go in, buy houses, go and buy land. But then a lot of us are renting spaces for cheaper, and it's even harder for us to have ability to buy land or ability to go and buy our own house and stuff like
You're
that.
crippled by
Yeah.
whatever you're in.
Yeah.
So here's another fun question, because I know I never got taught this at school. Did you guys ever get taught about how to buy a house? About how to
Absolutely
invest
not.
in this? About how to go about getting a
I
mortgage?
have to
no.
research that for myself.
For
No,
myself,
right?
yeah, like even financial education,
Yeah.
like we were not taught
I
that.
find all
No,
that.
Yeah.
at all. Not at all.
You got to go fumbling through your life,
Yeah.
figuring it all out. Why don't we have these programs in place where, as a young Caymanian that is 15, 16 years old, you can walk in and someone can go, okay, so when you go to this bank, you can apply for this account and it's going to make you this much interest, or you can put it into investment doing this, and this. Did you know that as a Caymanian you can invest in solvent companies here? Did you know what those solvent companies are?
No.
Like, these are all of the things that as a, it might not interest everyone, it fascinates me now, but as a 15, 16-year-old kid,
Yeah.
if someone went, here's the tools,
Yeah.
figure it out,
Yeah.
and then walked you through it, if at the end of that, if you still don't understand that concept,
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah.
But if
But
you
at
can
least
give
you
them
have
the
the tools, yeah.
Yeah.
man, like,
Because that's why there's so many young Caymanians who have brand new cars but are spending all their money on rent rather than putting it towards a piece of land that.
I don't necessarily think getting a car loan is a really bad idea. It's good to build your credit.
Yeah,
on
of course,
something.
yeah.
So,
But then,
fun fact about that. Like I said, if you haven't applied for a mortgage, I don't know when last you went and applied for a mortgage here, but
yeah, that was a
long time ago, right? So, if you're applying for a mortgage on this island, and this is for anyone that's listening as well, when you go and do this, when you talk about building your credit, so let's say you get a credit card given to you by the bank that's worth $5,000, and you get a car payment for, it's $1,000 a month, and you have to pay for, I don't know, 72 months or whatever it looks like. Let's say that car is worth 35 grand. So you've now got $40,000 in debt. That's what the bank classifies as debt,
Yeah.
not credit.
Yeah.
You can have a zero balance on your credit card. You could have spent $5,000 and paid it off. If it is at a zero balance, they count it as you were in debt $5,000. So it doesn't work for you. This is one of those weird things in Cayman. And I'm like, what? How does it not work for you? Building a credit score. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I agree to a certain extent, but if you can't afford to buy it twice or
Sorry.
afford to pay the payments all the time, like I don't understand.
Yeah, me personally, I would never like take out a loan on a car or something like that. Well,
just-
in the position that I'm in.
Yeah,
right now.
I feel like you're putting yourself behind when
Well,
you do
the
that.
problem with
unless you have the money.
Well, the thing is with car loans is that, all right, and this is where I have a bit of an issue. Now, banks can facilitate a car loan for $50,000, right? And they can do that within 7 days. You bring in all the necessary paperwork, which is very little that they require for a car loan. You bring that in, bam, and then you got your car the following week. You got your car. Now, if you want to buy a piece of property for $30,000.
Oh.
You literally have to plant a unicorn tree, watch it grow, take photos, and carry it back and say, hey, and then they still say, well, I don't know, you probably can't qualify for this for this piece of land. You see, I'll share something that is a bit on the opposite side of mortgages and whatever, and I know that a lot of people may kind of look sideways or feel a little different. But I read a book about 10 years ago, and the book was about financial advice, right? And it was specifically focused on people between 20 and 36 years old, right? And the reason why is because when you look at a bank application form, it specifically asks your age, and your age plays a heavy role in terms of the length of the mortgage, and the interest rate, and how much you got to pay back. Because obviously, if I roll up in the bank at 60, they're not giving me a 30-year mortgage. Because by the time I turn 90, I may be gone, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously you got to get health insurance and all these different things. To cover
Life
if you die.
insurance, yeah.
But in this book, there was a very strong argument about mortgages and against mortgages for young people.
I saw somebody told me this.
And I'll tell you why. Well, we all know that we can't carry anything with us. All right, we know that. And what the article was highlighting is that mortgages are liabilities.
That's what somebody told me as well.
And what it does is it eliminates a lot of your capabilities to do any other investment. It ties you down for 30 years. So why it talked about 20 to 36? Because when you're 20, they'll give you a 35-year mortgage. Because they know you're going to live at an average 55.
Sure.
Okay? So the longer your mortgage is, the longer you are obligated to that mortgage, and the longer you are held liable.
Yeah.
And one of the arguments in that book was, and what I learned from it, I learned it at a late stage, otherwise I would have never ventured down the mortgage field. And he said, is that it's better to lease the property that you're only obligated to for a certain period of time.
Right.
The landlord has to take care of all the maintenance, because home ownership comes with a huge maintenance bill
100%.
that the mortgage application does not factor in when they're giving you a mortgage. So when that roof starts to leak, you can't run to the bank and say, hey, my roof leaking.
You gotta
fix it yourself.
You gotta fix that. You know, if somebody break in and break out your windows, you can't run to the bank and say, hey, was this covered in my mortgage or my insurance? Listen, so home ownership comes with a plethora of responsibilities that is responsible to you only.
Yeah.
And God forbid, you're like some of those people I know that want paint their house every Christmas. That costs money, right? So understand, and the home maintenance in general, when you look at it, almost the same as what the mortgage payment is. In some cases, depending on your development. And what this was illustrating is that it's better you do 5-year incremental leases on properties where yes, you can get comfortable, kind of feel like it's your own. But if there's ever a day that you want to, all right, you know what? I want to go and move to another part of the world. You're not tied into a 35-year mortgage that you need to get out of before you leave. You don't have to worry about having to rent it out so that can pay for itself while you do leave. And if there's ever an opportunity for you to move about, that mortgage kind of shackles you to that jurisdiction.
Sure.
And I think that if you weigh the pros and cons, and you look at all of the things, and again, you always look at life expectancy, right? You always look at, okay, I can live until I'm XYZ. And that depends on your age. So if, let's say you're 40, and you've never owned a house before, but you're trying to get a house, but the government has made it very easy. First time ownership, first time buyers, no stamp duty. Oh, you know what? Government will give you a stimulus, give you 10%. You put in another 10%. Whatever it is they put in place.
Right.
You're gonna go tie yourself into a 20-year mortgage,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you obligated to be in a position in your life for the next 20 years, and you 40, and you 60 at the end of that, right? Anything that comes up between that 20 years of your life, of your mortgage, and it could be anything that could what? It could interrupt your ability to pay that mortgage. It could be something to do with health. All of these things can happen. Or somebody can call you and say, hey, AJ, my friend, you, I got a job offer. You want to come over to XYZ and work, but you got to leave like in a week. And this opportunity is a once in a lifetime. You then have to stop and say, okay, well, I need to find somebody to either buy or rent the house short term. Because you can't leave it there and then don't pay the mortgage and foreclose and all this other stuff happen.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, when you think about a mortgage, right? And it's like a car. You know, when you think about a mortgage, it is far less expensive for you as a person who lease a house, as opposed to a person who have a mortgage that you are shackled with responsibility to not only pay the mortgage but maintain the house.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, the pros and cons of both of those things, right? Like,
it's just something to think about, really.
For sure, but as a youngster, if you were able to get help from a parent or anything, if you're lucky enough that you've got parents that have some money,
that's that is an extreme minority.
Super.
Just so
hard.
you know.
Yeah, if you're able to do that.
And remember now, your mortgage takes all your life savings as a deposit.
Yeah.
As opposed to a lease.
Yeah. But now, during that whole period, like I say, so let's say my rent now is $2,500, but my mortgage is only going to be $900.
And that's ownership.
And I'm going to own it in 25 years. I'm probably going to take the mortgage option, but you have to be smart about it. You can't just go, okay, well, we're now going to be saving $1,100 every month on rent. No. You want to take that money and throw it into another account. For a rainy day, for insurance, for roof leaks, for this, for that, and everything else.
No. Your mortgage is hypothetically $700.
Yeah.
What's your life insurance a month?
Sure. Yeah. So
right.
now,
then the house insurance,
life insurance,
then
your
maintenance.
CUC, your this, your that. Everything comes up to. I did the math on this one with ours as well. It's coming up to like $1,700.
Okay.
So let's say you're saving.
So a little closer to that 25 than you thought.
Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
Saying,
for sure.
And you're bounded for 25 years now. Remember
100%.
that.
But if you're going, okay, so that's almost $10,000 a year you're saving. Right. If you're smart about it and you're able to put it into another account, or you're able to take, like, there are platforms now as youngsters. I mean, I don't know how old you guys are, but the apps and everything else that you can get, and I sound like an old man. I'm not an old man.
Leave that for me to say.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm glad you didn't ask me my age.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there.
I'm not that old.
But like, you've got all these apps and stuff for buying stocks and crypto and all of that stuff. I don't know about the crypto thing. It scares the hell out of me. But did you know that your banks offer you brokerage accounts?
Yeah.
So you can go and get a brokerage account.
Credit union.
They offer brokerage accounts.
It's really easy, and you can buy CUC shares.
Yeah.
So of that, let's say that $800 that you're saving, if you could take that and maybe put that into some CUC shares, your dividends at the end of that is 4.2%, whatever it is at the end of the year as well. So you're making a little bit of money on that. I'm not, and this is a perfect world we're talking about. Like you say, we're not talking about when a hurricane happens or anything like that. But I think that it's important to me. I grew up with my parents always owning homes and all of that sort of thing. So it's important to me, I think, for me personally, to own a home. I completely understand where you're coming from, and my wife is a little bit more like this.
Yeah, no, I'm not against owning homes. I was just putting another scenario
for sure
that people could venture down that road.
But she's very much along the lines of, but what if we just want to leave?
Yeah, that's what somebody told me.
And that's why we didn't get a pet for the longest time. I was like, then I can't go on vacation.
Then
what if I want to stay out all night? Then I got to come home and walk the dog. But now this dog is now a house. And you can't leave for 3 weeks without, like you say, having someone go in the house, sit, water the plants, do this, do that.
Maintenance.
make sure the fridge doesn't die when you're away and it comes back stinking. We rented our apartment to someone and that happened.
Well, let's reverse all the way back to the complications that you have to attain a home, as opposed to the options of whether a mortgage is better than leasing. I think where a lot of young Caymanians and a lot of middle-aged people have, and some of the conversations I've had, and I've spoken to a lot of people your age group, AJ, you know this already. You know, I hang out with more younger people than I do older people. That's a fact.
How old are you?
20.
20
Yeah.
and 21. Okay.
Yeah, and some of the conversations I've entertained with some of these individuals was very, very enlightening for me, because it's all, I think that we have bunny hopped all of the other fundamentals to the point where I just want to own a home, because somewhere down the line, they have been taught subliminally that, listen, home ownership is the quintessential key to success. Well, you own a home, then you know you've accomplished all these things.
White picket fence.
No,
kids,
I'm not saying
family,
that's not the case. What I'm saying is that we're willing to put life and limb and sacrifice of what we have, savings and all these different things. We consolidate some things. We sell some cars. We sell some shoes or whatever. Consolidate, get that deposit, get that house. Government then now, as we all know, is relaxing the stamp duties for first time Caymanian ownership, and now they're doing it for second time Cayman. You know, trying to make it easier for you to invest. Yeah. My biggest issue is that we need to tackle the most important issue, and that is sustainability, because it's okay for us to relax all of these laws to make it easier for you to get a home, but we've done absolutely nothing in terms of curbing the high cost of living that is constantly on the rise.
100%.
So you are qualified for a home, and I said this to AJ earlier. You qualify for a home on day one based on your salary, your expenditures, because that's what they combine the formula with. Okay, you qualify for XYZ, Mario. Okay, fine, let me find a house in that price range. I go out and I buy that house. My mortgage is $1,200 a month. Great. Then you got your light bill, your insurance, your health insurance, and all these different things in the peanuts. And you carry it through for 10 years, 5 years, whatever. But the cost of living is steadily growing. Right? Because there are many consumables in this island that is by compulsory, which is not regulated, such as food and energy and gas. Right? So you find yourself in a position where, and God forbid, that you're not in a position where your job is allowing you to increase your wages, which is very rare, by the way. If you're not some senior equity partner in a law firm, you ain't getting no bonuses, I can tell you that. So the cost of living has now just outpaced you. And then 10 years down the road, you find yourself where you are in a problem where, okay, you may have been able to afford it for the first 5 years, right? But for the next 5 years, where it starts to compound, and you start to reshuffle, well, you know what, I can pay half of the light bill this month, I can pay 60% of the mortgage, I can pay this, because I can make sure that the life insurance is clear, because if my life insurance default, then the mortgage default, but that's a requirement. Okay, then you got to pay health insurance, because God forbid something happened to you that you're not covered by insurance. Then you got to dip into family money, you got to dip into savings, you got to sell the car, you got to sell the roof off the house just to fix whatever medical issue you have. Then you find yourself where you can't pay that mortgage every month. And whereas it had sounded good in the beginning, well, the government, and then all of a sudden you find yourself where you're about to be foreclosed on, and then you lose that house in 5 years. In some cases, a lot sooner. And you lose that house. So then, what's the sense of relaxing all of these policies to get you in a home, but did absolutely nothing to keep you in it?
100%.
So on the flip side of that, the cost of property and everything is skyrocketing. So is rent. This is the other thing, right? Is that like
it's crazy.
When I first arrived here, man, you could get a 1-bedroom place for $600.
Rent
lights and water, everything included, and I was like, "What? This is great."
And
when I moved here, and I went,
I'm in.
Whoa! When I moved here, I went, "That's ridiculous. That's so expensive. I couldn't fathom that." Now, you get a studio the size of this room with your kitchen and everything in it.
$1,800.
At least, and people are happy.
That's if you're lucky.
And people are happy.
Or you can't bring no pets and no
pets.
children out.
Yeah, right.
Just you.
Yeah, but like, people are happy to pay that, but are they happy to pay it because they just don't have a choice? That's it. Like, you just don't have a choice. So as a young up and coming Caymanian, You either are going to continue living with your parents if they were lucky enough to buy a house, or you're going to pay exorbitant rent in somewhere that you're never going to own, or like you say, you're going to get a mortgage and maybe be outpaced by the prices of everything else. This all sounds extremely scary.
Or NAU, you end up
100%.
or
Yeah.
NAU paying for you.
Yeah, and it all sounds really scary, but I don't think it's anything that other places in the world have never experienced before. Like it's gone through these paces of like.
Yeah, of course.
The only problem is, like you say, with the sustainability. All of these properties are being sold. Who's living in them?
Well, they're investment properties. So this
For
is what
who?
this is what driving the cost of living. This is what driving the cost of property up.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what driving the cost of property up. And this is why we have a serious issue. But the government, again, remember, we are a service-based society. So every application that go into planning, every land sale and every property sale generates revenue for GDP. So obviously the government is not going to do anything to discourage that.
Sure.
Okay, so we were in a very ticklish situation where it's kind of a catch-22 because we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't.
Yeah.
So remember now, if you look at how the system is designed, so for instance, let's say AJ and him is realtors. I'm a developer, and you are a suspected buyer, and I say, okay, I'm going to build 84 units, and I need to sell 15% of them at pre-construction cost in order to attain the full financing package from my banker.
Right.
So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to call my realtor and say, guys, look, I need to sell 15% of this development. Here's the plans, here's the schematics, here's everything. I need to sell 15% of these before I can get the green light to do the whole project, right?
Yeah.
So them as realtors, and this is what's happening in Cayman, and I want all these real estate people to listen, right? Because we know what's going on.
Yeah.
So the brokers then say, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna give you the deposit for the 15%. You listening? The brokers pay the developer the 15% of the sales deposit that they need to justify the full financing package from their creditors, and then they buy it pre-construction.
Yeah.
So you as a suspected buyer never see that pre-construction.
You don't get
100%.
So what's happening then? They take and mark it up to the retail.
Yeah.
And then after the construction is finished, they then mark up $400,000 and $500,000 on top, and that is the driving cost of real estate.
Yeah.
And then the other factor is that we're selling out large tracts of land in relatively low density areas that were affordable to major players who are now putting in multi-million-dollar development, which then anything in and around that now increases.
Sure.
So, for instance, the Hartwell bypass was just a dike road when I was growing up.
Yeah.
That was all swamp land.
Yeah.
Okay? And then on top of that, it was next to the dump. You couldn't give that land away. Helen Hartwell's husband came in here in the 1970s and just bought up a bunch of land for conservation, because he was a conservation guy.
You're right.
He bought it up just to preserve it. He
Yeah.
died, left it to her, and she also kept it. And then she got to the point where she was dying and she sold it to Dar.
Right.
Then they came in and they developed property. They put in a bypass, they filmed it in, put down these multi-million-dollar complexes. Then all of a sudden, you can't even buy a square foot of land there for under $100,000.
100%.
Only because of the existing development. Now, I understand that brings value to anything around it, and that a lot of the evaluations based on all of the DDL and all these people who do property evaluations, they always base it on the last sale within the vicinity.
Right.
That's where they start. So,
Right.
for instance, if you're buying this lot of land here, they're gonna do a check to say, well, okay, how much that guy sold that land for a year ago? Well, if that sold for $500,000, then that determines the value of this.
Right.
And that's where they go off of their valuation.
Right.
So, for instance, then Dart built Commander Bay, and he sell one unit at Olea for $1 million. You think you gonna get the swamp next door for $100,000?
No.
Never happened,
No.
because he just sold a piece of property for $1 million. So whether that's swamp or not, you still gonna pay what that demands.
Yeah.
And that's why when you look in all of these subdivisions, we have covenants. And this is again what drives the cost up. So when these subdivisions go in and they got these high covenants requirements, all that means is that if you buy a piece of property in there, you have 6 months to build.
Yeah.
It has to be done on time. It has to be a certain square footage, and it has to look a certain way. And when you sell, if for instance, you're desperate and you own the house outright. You may have had some family inheritance.
Yeah.
Do you know in certain subdivisions the covenants clearly state that you can't fire sell the house for under market value? You could be dying. You could be dying for a heart transplant.
Yeah.
And all you gotta do is sell that house for $100,000 that worth $1 million.
Yeah.
But you're not worried about the million. You just want $100,000 to save your
do it.
life. That covenant prohibits you from selling it for $100,000. So you're gonna die.
Because it makes the market value go down.
That's right.
And it's so
Scary.
funny that you said that the point about the piece of land development being sold even before they go on the market, because even that development by Moonbeam near you guys,
Yeah.
I drove past there and I saw the for sale sign, and obviously I went to go ask my dad about it because he's in land development. And he called the guy, he came out, and he was like, all of these pieces were sold even before they went up for sale, and I was just like, what?
Why put a sign up?
Yeah, like, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Why?
I was gonna say, but did you know about it? Did you know
Nobody
about it?
knew.
Did you know about it?
All of
So
these
they-
were sold
so
before the for
It's
sale sign went
only
up.
to appease the laws.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah. So they did this.
Little jobs too.
Mm.
So they did this years and years ago in Vancouver. The same thing. So if you ever get the chance to go to Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, like Gastown, all of that, these huge skyscrapers, 60, 70 floors
there.
high, empty.
That's crazy.
Empty. No one lives there because people from China came in, bought everything. But more to the point is that the Canadian government, and there might be some Canadians listening to this, and I might be bastardizing it completely.
That's okay.
Don't really care. But from what I've been told is that they literally said, okay, this piece of land here, we're not even going to advertise it to the Canadian people.
That's
We're just going to say, here, you guys will pay more. Let's advertise to these guys and then bring it back here, and exactly like that, put a sign up that says 80% sold. And the Canadians go,
Well, when?
These
where,
exactly when?
where was it? Where was the advertising for it? And then when you go and buy one, because it's 80% sold, the other 20% now isn't 500,000, it's 2.5 million. And you go, oh, well, now what am I supposed to do?
And I see a lot of people complaining about, oh, these expats are coming, taking up all the land, blah, blah, blah. But then you really have to think about how they're doing it. They're playing by the rules of the government. So rather than looking at the people buying the land, I feel like people should hold the government accountable for it.
100%. If you said it perfectly. The foreigners are playing by the rules. Whether you want to call them expats when they've been here for 25 years, whatever it looks like, 5 years. If you've got the money and you can afford to buy it, and the government is allowing you to do that in a country that is not yours, but as Caymanians, you almost have to ask yourselves, and you said it in the beginning with putting the revenue back into the country and everything, but maybe there should be a cap.
No, there can't be a cap. You know why it can't be a cap?
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. Because the moment you limit or cap it, then you've just capped and limited your resources and the money you generate annually.
Yeah, and
Dude,
then they're gone.
this island depends on land sales and a plethora of different various things that happen. Work permit fees, land sales, import duties on cars. You know Cayman Roads is filled with cars only because it fills a gap within our financial budget. We're not gonna. You hear people talking about we need to stop bringing in this car and that car. Dude, that'll never happen.
It's already too late.
Until you figure out a way to generate revenue alternatively. Remember now, and not about expats and foreigners. Listen, in a free liberal country, anybody should be able to buy a piece of property regardless. If your money has been proven to be clean and you've come here from legal means, meaning that you didn't come in here on a fake passport, or you didn't steal in here from the borders, and you didn't roll up with a suitcase full of wet cash. Okay, you're here, you're legitimate, you got here from legitimate means, your money is real, and it's from a legitimate source. There should be nothing hindering you, regardless of where you're from buying the property.
100%.
Okay, so that we can put that aside. Foreigner, Caymanian, whatever you're from, it doesn't matter. The biggest issue that we have is where we have people who come in here and seeing the relaxed, laid-back laws and in some cases the non-existent laws,
And taking advantage.
and they take advantage of the
100%.
situation, and that is, I think, is where the misconception of the foreigner coming in buying up everything. That's not what it is. The reality is that we have laws that inward bound investment has to have Caymanian participation.
Yeah.
which is the 60-40 rule.
Yeah.
Then we had this whole stupidness in the early 90s called the LCCL, where they circumvented that and say, oh well, if you want to invest in Cayman and you don't want Caymanian to participate, then you need to apply for an LCCL. And I'm saying to myself, in the 1980s we had 4 LCCLs, special grants. You know how many we got today? 560 thereabouts, and counting every day. So again, and then that's where that whole foreigners taking over misconception come in, because our stupid politicians allowed them to put in an LCCL clause that say you don't need a Caymanian to participate in this investment.
Yeah.
So it's not the foreigner fault that they can come in and do 100% investment on their own.
They're just playing by the rules.
They're just playing by the rules that was created by the stupid politicians who allowed lawyers to draft a law for their own personal interests.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And until young Caymanians in the future of this country understands that there are a few policies that need to be redacted, need to be reviewed, and need to be reshaped. Because I'm sure you would not hesitate to do business with a Caymanian who you find to be honest, reasonable, and a good business partner.
I do, yeah.
No one will have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about coming in here and buying property, and I keep hearing, well, I just need to buy a house. Buy a house to do what? To keep it for 3 years and then you lose it because you can't pay? Now, I do know this, that a lot of people who got PR bought a lot of foreclosed homes. And I think that's where the tension came in. But again, there's nothing illegal about doing that.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think that's where we kind of went off the beaten path. Well, their friend called them in the bank and tell them that this is available, so they go in and buy it, and then they can apply for their PR and all this sort of foolishness. I don't buy that story.
Yeah.
I just think that the Caymanian people, as you guys mentioned earlier, about having comprehensive training programs from in the school that say, hey, Mario, do you know that being a bartender or a waiter or being a tour operator or a dive master is actually really lucrative? Maybe if your family, or maybe if you're not going off to get a college degree, maybe you want to go into this field. And hey, by the way, here's a program from in the school that teaches you about this. Real estate, for instance. You know, if they had told me that real estate could make you money in the 1980s when I went to school and graduated in 1990, there would be nobody else in Cayman selling real estate but me. I would have this thing cornered.
Yeah. But teaching.
But no one told me that.
Yeah, teaching kids everything.
Because I didn't go to college. I didn't even graduate from high school.
I don't think college, bro. I think it's just, honestly, traditional Caymanian mindset. And not like a knock on Cayman. It's just
No.
what we taught, passed on.
Yeah. We
Growing
were
up,
complacent.
you
Nice
gotta
people.
be. I want you to go to school, be a doctor,
Put on a tie and suit.
Yeah, tie and suit. Not everybody's built for that line of work.
Do you think it was like? Do you think it was maybe something that was seen from the outside world, brought in like on TV and movies and that sort of thing?
A lot of influence came
in
from
order
that.
for you to be successful, you have to be
this
in
type
the
of
bank
person.
or as a lawyer or the. And don't get me wrong, you can go and be a lawyer. You can go and be a banker. And
I was
are you allowed to swear on this show?
I think you
Are
can
you
go
allowed
out.
to swear on this show?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. You can curse in the show.
Yeah, we grown.
Wait. AJ, I could have not held back.
Yeah, come on, let's do it. Come on.
Yeah, I don't want to get.
This
like,
is our show.
I
We
don't
are
want to
grown.
say.
So this HBO.
Yeah.
Yes.
Max.
We can't go.
Blood clot.
Yeah.
How much time we got left on that?
All right, so hold
6
on.
minutes? All right.
So,
All right.
bruh, not all this time.
Yo, okay, but so quickly,
Plain.
you can go and be a lawyer. You can go be a doctor. I'm not taking anything away from those.
Yeah, do your thing.
Those professions. They're great. They're gonna make you lots
no,
of
no,
money.
no, no.
That's
Thank you, not
fantastic.
great.
Whatever. If you want to sit in an office for 10 hours a day, fucking go
Not
nuts.
me.
Do it. If you want to come and work somewhere like I work, where you get to stand on the beach and look at the beautiful Cayman that we have,
Yeah.
and meet new people every single day. Meet people like Mario that I've met numerous times, and I forget him every time. It's okay. You're allowed to forget these people, but you're going to meet incredibly interesting people. I can say in a small group of people that I know, billionaires, business owners, bankers, lawyers, accountants, all of those people give you the opportunity to be successful.
100%.
You just have to ask them.
100%.
Yeah, you just have to be. You have to be in that environment.
100%.
And you're not going to be in that environment if
Not
you're
in the
sitting
bank.
behind a desk
Dude.
for 10 hours a day.
I was taught by my grandaunt, God bless you, heart and soul, may you all rest in peace. And they're my mothers. They wanted me to work in the bank. Or put on a clean clothes and a tie. Dude, I went to work at British American Bank in 1994, right down there in the village. You know how much money I was making in that bank? $1,275 a month. My rent at Ocean Club was $700. My bank loan was $200. Yeah. And my little brother Shim, who moved back here and lived with me, I was taking care of him, bro. I was on a budget to a T. And I'm saying to myself, I get up every morning, iron my pants, put on my shoe, pick a tie, put that on, drive all the way to Georgetown, go inside that bank and look like $1 million, and the janitor who's sweeping the floor during the day that I'm there, making more money than me.
Living a breaky.
And I'm living in his own house.
Yeah.
So, going on vacation.
But on your exterior, you look like
but
you're
I look
doing
good.
Great. Yeah. You got a nice car, you got a nice suit, everyone goes, whoa, look at that guy.
But if I knew that I could have went and been a bartender, which I would have loved to been because I'm a very outgoing person, dude, I would have been the best bartender in Cayman, I swear to God, because I like to meet people and I like drink. So I would have been perfect for that scenario. But when I was in high school, we would never, and to you guys' point, no one taught us about anything for the fundamentals of life. Well, you know what, Mario? We know that you're not going to college. We can see that. Well,
I wish someone had told me that.
Maybe,
man,
maybe you might want to get into hospitality because we can see your personality. Well, I know I wasn't going to college. Our family couldn't afford it, and I wasn't focused on school anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the fact, because me and my brother, my older brother, we raised ourselves from the time we were 11. So we made a decision whether we went to school or not. So I know for sure that I wasn't even going to graduate. So I never had any dreams to go to no college. One thing I did know, though, is that I had a burning desire to succeed. And I know that I always will, right? But if I had knew about hospitality, if I had knew about real estate, let me tell you something. And I know that I didn't need a degree to sell real estate.
Yeah. Just a license.
That's what, 2 months?
Yeah.
2 months.
I wouldn't have wore a tie another day of my life.
Yeah.
If I had known about those things. If somebody in the school had put in a comprehensive training program to teach children about these things, we would have been good. We got 2 minutes left.
Yeah, I was just going to say, hold on. All right, so just to wrap up, what advice would you give to young people in a situation where they'd want to buy land or buy property? What advice would you give them? And also, what do you think the government should implement in order to make it easier for specifically young Caymanians?
Well, I'll take a stab at a few suggestions. What I would say is that I think the government need to take a very strong look at the real estate industry in the Cayman Islands. Obviously, Sariba has a stronghold on all listings, and I think that limits Caymanians from being able to get or realize good and better price points, simply because a lot of the brokers that are under the Sariba banner are the persons who are buying all the pre-constructed price developments, which is driving the cost up, right? So the government needs to take a strong look at that in order to curb the high cost from rising in certain areas in Cayman. And also, I think that young Caymanian people who are seeking to be homeowners should think about buying properties with a rental addition to it, so that it can generate a little bit of revenue.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And the only reason why I say that is because of the constant rise of for real estate in the Cayman Islands. So, for instance, if let's say you buy a house, or you want to buy, I would encourage you to buy more of a duplex, or if you build a duplex, live in one half and the other half. Get something that can have some sort of revenue generating from it. Now, I know that's not traditionally ideal, where you want to have your own yard and have your own space and your own privacy. I know that is attainable, but the way things are going now, at this particular moment where you don't have all of these things in place, you want to buy smart, you need to be smart. So if you can purchase a property and you can qualify for a property, see if you can get a property where it has a rental unit on it that you can rent to generate revenue.
For sure.
Okay.
I couldn't agree with you more. I also think, like we discussed a little bit earlier, is that the education part of things, I think government definitely needs to start to think about educating young Caymanians about all of these things from the get-go, because man, if you can get a head start on all of this stuff. Also, the other thing that I want to tell you all, don't ever be afraid of asking the question.
Agreed.
Ask. The worst that someone can say is no, I'm not going to help you.
Yeah.
But if you ask and they give you this little tidbit of information that'll take you on to the next step, It's just next steps. That's all that it is. You can't just look and go, I want what he has. It's not gonna happen, because 20 years later you're gonna wake up and then you're gonna be a millionaire and you go, and everyone looks at you and goes, oh, it must be nice, and you go, yeah, no, I worked my fucking ass off for this.
Yeah.
For 20 years to
put
get
the work
here.
in.
Yeah, but everyone just sees the fact that you're driving around in these lovely cars and have this nice house, and no, like, but ask the questions, and if you can, man, go and do a real estate agent's course, like find out where these things are going. Talk to the developers, all of that sort of thing. But yeah, just ask the questions and the rest will follow for sure.
One suggestion somebody gave to me was that the government should appeal more to local developers as well as private developers, and have an agreement where they build specifically for Caymanians. And what they said that they should tell the developers, or the agreement should be split parcels in half. That way the cost of the parcel will reduce in half. So say you have a piece of land that's 0.25 acres, split it in half. So instead of it being, let's say, $400,000, it end up being $200,000. Then have those pieces of land specifically for Caymanians who are 20 to 30 years old, so that you're accommodating for the younger generation of Caymanians. And then on top of that, have the agreement be for 5 years, so that at least if they're buying that specific piece of land or trying to build a house or something like that, that they're not just buying to go and sell it or buying to go and move, but they're actually living in that specific place.
You don't have the option to make the money off of it, but you get the
at least
accommodation.
At least.
Well, the government did put some new laws at planning where you can gazette, but they changed the gazette, right? Where you can have a 6,000 square foot lot of land, right? So that means you can have 6 lots, theoretically on an acre. Yeah. Okay. And I think they did an initiative like that before, but they didn't specify it only for Cayman. So maybe that's the caveat that they're referring to. But what we also need to pay attention to is that when you look at land sales, we need to stop allowing the land adjusters to evaluate land based on what they feel like. Because we're having a serious issue where the evaluator come in and they'll evaluate your property here at this point, and then 5 years later they change the valuation dramatically in the downward position. I mean, and I know that it depends on the last sale within the vicinity that determines what the value is, or that's the formula they use, which I think is wrong. Because how someone will come into your house that you just spent $800,000 billing and say, hey, your house only worth $600,000 because the guy down the road sold his house for $5. Replacement value based on construction material at the time and the construction cost should be the determining factors in terms of what your house value. A guy can't roll up and say, give you a scenario. Let's say you in $1 million neighborhood, but the guy across the street lost his house to foreclosure and the bank fire sold it for what he owed, which was $200,000. So what? $200,000 is on the books as being a sale. So now I'm trying to sell my house across the street that's worth 1.2, but you're going to determine the value of my house based on the last sale, which is $200,000. It's not right and it's not fair. So for young Caymanians who want to get themselves established by being homeowners, there's many things that the government can do and there's many things that the government shouldn't do. Okay? And I think that one of the things the government shouldn't do is get into the business of making it easier for young Caymanians to get into a home and they're not able to sustain it. Because I don't want them to just say, I helped Caymanians get home, or a Caymanian say, I got home. Let's just see how long you're going to last in that home. So we got to create a holistic solution where we systematically reduce the cost of living, or maybe there should be a mortgage fund development where I think, and guys, this is for you younger guys, for me it's a little bit past my time. I think you guys should start doing small investment funds. I'll tell you why. Find 5 guys that you all know and you trust. Write up an agreement that simply says that here's the terms of this investment. Take and put $1,000 a month in each, 5 of you. That's $5,000. Do it for 5 years. Take that money then and put it into an investment. Buy an apartment, build a complex, and it's all into a company name and you all benefit from it. Okay?
And pay it off.
It's called Small Caymanian Investment Fund. Form a company, 5 or 10 of you, the more the better. You all contribute a couple $100 a month into that fund. After 5 years, you guys are still relatively young, bro. You realize if you do that for 10 years, if you all put together 10 people right now, think about what I'm saying. 10 of you right now at 20 years old, start putting $500 a month each. That's $5,000 a month for 10 years.
That's
10 years from now,
crazy.
10 years from now, you guys are on 30. You're gonna have a pile of money in the bank. You can roll up on any investment site and say, hey, we got $1 million, we want to buy 6 of these units. Or we want pay 10% deposit on 12 of these units at pre-construction price. And then when that construction finish, you do a 30-40% markup, just like what Morgan's doing, and you make $200,000 on each unit.
Yeah.
And you could do it right now. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. It's too late for me. I got my hustle already. I good. But get 10 guys, get 10 people, 10 friends, and start and open up one company and call it Young People's Investment Fund, Young Group, call it whatever you want. Get it registered, and you start depositing money. Get a bank account, start depositing money to that account. Do it for 5 years.
Yeah.
$5,000 a month. $5,000 a month for 10 years. You talking about what? $60,000 a year? That's $600,000 in 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's real money.
Yeah.
You can roll up and buy large tracts of land. You can roll up and buy complexes, or you can build. And then you have $600,000 in raw cash equity. You can then go and say, okay, we use $200,000 to buy a large tract of land. We use $400,000 as a deposit, get the development going, and then you got multi-million-dollar complex going all off of one small investment fund.
That's crazy.
But you got to be willing to do it. You can't talk about it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah,
advice.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah,
That's my
I
advice.
think about it now.
That last little thing that you said, stop talking about it, just do it.
do
Just
it.
do it. No, 100%.
That's my advice to all young people in Cayman.
100%.
Because no man is an island. What one man can do, 10 can.
100%.
Telling you. Trust
Just
me,
like
I never
that
had that
million.
when I was growing up. Nobody told me none of this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was real pocket of knowledge right there.
Yeah,
man,
for
and
real.
stuff. Because what I want to do too is start investing in something like the S&P 500. That's like $200 a month. You know, like next 10, 20 years, I'd be a millionaire. Something
I'm
like that.
telling you, bro. The time is now. If somebody had given me this advice when I was 19, 20, trust me, this would be my billion now. All of Georgetown are doing all this. Every bit of this. Telling you, but nobody never gave me that advice.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm sure you know, investment,
I created my own
opportunity,
hustle.
people, and all of that sort of
Yeah.
thing. But like, I have a private banker that if you guys want his number, I'll hand it off. It's like a $300 every month, and it just comes up your account. You don't even see it.
Yeah.
When you get paid, it's gone. And all of a sudden, like you say, in 20 years' time, you've now got a fund for yourself that you go, oh, I have $200,000 in here. What am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. I have a retirement fund before I've even started looking at my
Bro,
pension.
that's what I do with my U.S. account. Because I don't spend U.S. here. We live in Cayman. I spend CI.
Yeah.
So every time I get paid in U.S., I put it in the U.S. account.
See ya.
And I don't even touch it. I don't even have a debit card for that. I go straight into that account. I've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
But
If you get a raise on anything, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Just keep putting it aside.
But yeah, the main reason why I wanted to have this conversation was just for it to be a conversation starter. So anybody watching, especially if you're a young Cayman, I would advise you to talk to your members of parliament, talk to your parents, get advice, stuff like that, because look how much knowledge we got from this
literally.
hour-long
I'm
podcast.
pretty sure the direction of my life kind of like
changed just in this one evening. So
well, I'm happy that we can help, bro.
yeah,
You can. I was gonna say you can message me. You can come and see me whenever you want. I'm an open book as well. You ask me anything you want to know.
yeah, for sure. Because
Bro,
people, sorry to cut you off.
No,
People
no.
always complain that there's no change and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there
You
has
are
to be
the
a
change.
Exactly, and there has to be a conversation to start the change, which is why I
100%.
wanted to do this.
And also to my fellow young Caymanians, I feel it's very important that you seek out a mentor
100%.
Yeah.
because you may feel like you know it all, but
Facts.
nothing be experienced.
That's so true. And you know what? I'll share a little bit of what was successful for me. I changed my environment. I changed the people I hung out with.
Yeah.
I used to wear 2 earrings. I took them out. People don't take you serious when you don't look serious. Now, that may work for me. Something may work different for you. And what I tell you is this, is that be mindful of who your circle is, and make sure that your circle have something to bring and not something to take.
100%.
Make sure that you can benefit from them and they can benefit from you. So
Yeah.
make sure your circle is a circle that wants to see you succeed. Because there's people in your circle that brings a certain negativity that is just not going to gel with your success.
Called
Yeah.
bad mind.
So
Yeah.
understand that.
There was a fun little quote that I read the other day, and I thought that it was fascinating. And it said, "If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room."
Yeah, I was about to
Yeah.
add that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly that. Surround yourself with the people that are earning $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, or have successful business. It's not about money. Don't give a fuck about money. That's the last thing.
Yeah.
If you're happy and you're doing what you want to do, that's all. That's all that matters. But you're not going to do that with a bunch of hoodlums running around in the back of whatever.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Well, what I would like to see in 10 years is that I run into either you young guys in 10 years and all of you
Yeah,
are
I still
millionaires and super successful based on advice that you've taken tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, a young
100%.
Caymanian investment fund is the way to go.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I did tell my
about to
friends
message
tonight.
in the
Yeah,
chat.
I did tell them tonight.
Yeah.
Nah,
Get that going,
Yo,
bro.
get me
No,
in
for
that.
sure.
Get that going.
Because I mean, I do it on my own. Because like whenever I get paid, and obviously I have my own
Yeah.
side business as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I tell them all the time, $2,000 goes straight into credit union.
Yeah, bro.
As soon as I get paid,
Yeah.
every month. So
But now there's power in numbers.
100%.
Yes,
So
yes.
get 10 friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.